This is a Singapore Math Live Solutions recording for Primary 5 Week 2. I'm going to be talking about problems out of the workbook, exercises 9 and 10, and these are the word problems. Page 24, exercise 9. We have problem number 1. On this problem, Elaine has 274 beads, and it divides it down into colors for us. And so, as we would pretty much always do, we're going to get a picture going. And we know that this box is going to represent all of the beads. There's 274 of the beads. And I'm told that 150 of them are blue. I don't worry too much about dividing it proportionately. I just need a good picture of what's going on. I know that 70 of them are red, and I know the rest of them are white. So, especially from the picture, it's pretty clear that I have 274 altogether, and if I subtract the ones that I know are not white, the 150 that are blue and the 70 that are red, I can subtract those and come up with the fact that there are 54 white beads. Now the question, always go back and make sure you're answering the question that's being asked, is how many more red beads than white beads are there? So if there are 70 red beads and 54 white beads, then there's 16 more red than white. Number 2 talks about tickets to a concert. The adult tickets and children's tickets are different prices, and we know that Matthew bought 4 adult tickets and 5 children's tickets. In order to write this, kind of like we've been doing in the homework this week, 4 times 15 is 4 adult tickets at $15 a piece, and 5 times 8, 5 children tickets at $8 a piece. And because we're doing order of operations, we want to make sure we do it correctly. We're going to do the multiplication in the first step and then add afterwards. When you do 4 times 15, remember that you're doubling the number and then doubling that again. That's multiplying by 4. And so you can do 4 times 15 would be 30 times 2, or that would be 60. 5 times 8 is 40, and altogether Matthew spent $100 on tickets. Problem number 3 is at a carnival, Anne sold 314 bottles of drink a day. Now that was broken up into morning and afternoon, and it tells us that in the morning, let's see, she sold 66 bottles more in the afternoon than in the morning. So she sold some in the morning, I don't know how many, and she sold more in the afternoon. This is a very common way of kind of showing your work on a word problem in this class, because when we have in the afternoon, we're told that she sold 66 more bottles in the afternoon than in the morning. And what we also know in this problem is that she sold a total of 314 bottles all day long. Now notice, if I color code this, the morning and part of the afternoon represent the same number, the same amount. The afternoon, there's 66 more than the morning, but if I got rid of those 66, the two would be the same amount. If she sold 314 bottles and you subtract 66 from that, then you come up with 248. And what you realize is that the 2 pink parts represent 248 bottles sold. But that's in 2 groups, so I would divide that by 2 and find that there's 124 per group. So this pink one is 124, and this pink one is 124. Those 2 groups are equal. The question asks how many did she sell in the morning, and so we're saying that she sold 124 in the morning, 124 bottles in the morning. Now, any time possible, I always like to encourage students to check their work, because it just helps us figure out if we missed something that we didn't realize we missed. If there's 124 in the morning, and then she sold 124 and 66 extra in the afternoon, and I add those together, then I come up with 304 total bottles sold, and that matches the information given, so I have a good amount of confidence that I have the correct answer for that problem. Problem number 4, we know that Adam bought a pen and a book, and the book cost 3 times as much as the pen. So we don't know how much the pen cost, but let's just say it took 1 box of money, and then the book was 3 times as much, so it must have cost 3 boxes of money. Now maybe each box is a penny, and maybe each box is $123, I don't know. But this represents the fact that the book is 3 times as much as the pen. Okay, so when you see these words, you need to either draw or picture this in your mind. That's the relationship between them. Now what I know is that altogether he spent $112. That's also given to us in the problem. What we have to realize is, and this is the loveliness of drawing the drawing like this, is that each of these pink boxes are exactly the same. So I have $112 and I'm dividing it into 4 equal groups, and that tells me that it's $28 for each group. Always go back and read the question that you're trying to answer. It wants you to find the cost of the book. A book is 3 groups. So 28 times 3 is equal to $84. And that is the cost of a book. Now, again, let's check our work. What we're saying is that the pen is $28 and the book is $84, and if we add that together, sure enough, we come up with a total spent of $112. Once again, I'm convinced I've done it correctly and gotten the answer that I was looking for. Moving on to exercise 10, problem number 1. Chris paid $36 for 3 tank tops and 2 shirts. Now I'm also told that a t-shirt costs 3 times as much as a tank top, and I'm trying to figure out how much Chris would pay for the 2 t-shirts. So let's start with what we know. I know that a t-shirt and a tank top can be compared, and I know the shirt costs 3 times as much as a tank top. So once again, it's even 3 times, just like it was last time. A tank costs 1 bucket of money, and a t-shirt costs 3 buckets of money. Now, what I know is that for 3 tank tops and 2 t-shirts, he paid $36. So if I buy 3 tanks and I buy 2 t-shirts, I'm going to have to pay $36. Now, a tank costs 3 buckets of money. Each t-shirt costs 3 buckets of money, and I want 2 t-shirts. Altogether, I've spent 9 buckets of money, and that cost $36. So that means that each of my group must be $4 if I spend 9 buckets or 9 groups and I spend $36. Each group, each bucket is $4. So the question is, how much did he pay for 2 t-shirts? Each bucket of money is $4. That means a t-shirt is $12, and then for 2 t-shirts would be $24. You know what I'm going to do next, right? Sure, we're going to check it. If a t-shirt is $12 and a tank is $4, 3 tanks, I should write the $4, 3 tanks would be $12, and 2 t-shirts would be $24, and altogether that would cost me $36. And of course, a tank and a t-shirt are in the right ratio. the t-shirt is 3 times as much as the tank. So my answer, have all kinds of things circled over there, but my answer to the question was how much did you pay for 2 t-shirts, and that answer is $24. The second question tells us that Peter bought 45 greeting cards, and he spent, for each one, he got 3 for $2. So he purchased 45 cards at the rate of 3 cards for $2. And this was his purchase. And then later he sold them at a different rate. He sold them at 5 cards for $4. And we want to know, and this is, of course, he still had 45 cards, and we want to know how much money he made. Well, of course, how much you make is how much you earn, subtract how much you spent, right? That's the first thing we have to do. So we need to find out how much you earn minus how much you spent, and that is profit, or in this case, what it says is how much did you make. All right, that's how much money you made. So if you have 45 cards at 3 for $2, first thing you have to do is take your cards and divide them up into groups of 3. I have 15 groups, and each of those groups I'm going to sell for $2. So what I find out is when I purchased the cards, I spent $30 purchasing the cards. Same math over here. I have 45 cards. I'm going to divide it into groups of 5, and that tells me I have 9 groups. Now notice, these numbers worked out nicely. They really can't give us a problem like this, especially for 5th grade, where it's not going to work out nicely. I have to have an even number of groups, or then I can certainly work with fractions, but we're in the beginning of the book. We're not going there quite yet. Soon, not yet. 45 divided by 5 is 9 groups, and I get to sell all 9 of those groups for $4 a piece. So when I sell my cards, my earnings amount to $36. So the amount of profit, the amount of money I make on the cards is $6. Now to check this one, you really can't put it back into any other information. You can just check the work that you did and make sure that you didn't make mistakes. There's not a way to go back and put it in and see if it works out. But certainly, going back and looking back over your work, making sure your division was correct is a wise idea anytime you do a math problem. Number 3, a box of cookies cost $6. A bottle of milk costs $2. After paying for 2 boxes of cookies and 6 bottles of milk, Nicole had $30 left. So if I buy 2 boxes of cookies, that's $12. If I buy 6 bottles of milk, that's also $12. So altogether, I spent $24 on cookies and milk. If I have $30 left, then I must have started out, before I spent anything, I must have started out with $54 at first. And that's the question that it asks me. How much money did she have at first? Before I spent money, I still had the $24. I still had the $30. I had $54 in the beginning. Problem number 4. Lily and Sarah each had an equal amount of money at first. So we're going to start out like we many times do with a bar graph, just a graph using blocks, using bars. And we know that Lily and Sarah each have an equal amount of money. So whether or not it looks like they're exactly the same length, we're going to call them the same length. Lily spent $18. So I'm going to change my color scheme a little bit here. Lily spent $18 and Sarah spent $25. And after that, Lily had twice as much money as Sarah did. I paused my recording and redrew the pictures a little bit just because I want to have a little nicer one for you. One thing I want to point out, when I do the pictures, on purpose, I don't make them exactly proportional, because when your students draw them, they're not going to know how to draw it proportionally. So we have to be able to look at a picture, even if it doesn't look right, and follow the words that it tells us and make sure we understand. So again, Lily and Sarah started out with the same size block, an equal amount of money. Lily spent $18, Sarah spent $25, and when that was finished, Sarah had money up to the green line, and Lily had money up to her green line. And of course, Sarah had less than Lily because she spent more, and they started with the same amount. But the important part of this is the next sentence. Lily had twice as much money as Sarah. Now, what Sarah has is this block right here. I'll even color it pink for us. This is how much Sarah has. Now, according to my picture, this much is what Lily has that is the same as Sarah. I drew the green dashed line to show us this is where Sarah's money ends. But what my picture doesn't look like, but is true, is the fact that if Lily has twice as much as Sarah, this little bitty pink part is actually the same size block. Now again, I could, working backwards and knowing the answer, draw it to look exactly proportional. But when your student draws it, they're not going to see it proportional like that, because you have to know the answer to draw it that way, basically. And so when I do it on this for you, I want to show it to you like this and be able to say, look, it doesn't look like it's twice as much, but the words in the book tell us that it's twice as much. And then if your student wants to, if you are a visual person and you want to make sure you see it, you could redraw it like this and say, okay, then that means this is 18, and this is matching what Sarah has, and so this is where Sarah ended up, and this must be 25, because they started with the same amount of money, and when Sarah spent her 25, she has half of what Lily has left. Okay? Now, either of these drawings says the same thing. Certainly, if you take the time to redraw it like I did on the bottom, it's a little easier to see. But as you get used to the kind of drawings and doing the problems this way, you'll be able to see them both ways, because here's the point. What we know is that we have groups that are S big. We don't know how big S is, but I know that S and 18 represents the $25 that Sarah spent. Again, it's easier to see down here when we say S is what Sarah has left. Lily has 2 of those, but the $25 that Sarah spent took her down by a group of S and by 18. So if S plus 18 is 25, what I have to add to 18 to get 25 is 7, and so I know that each of my groups of S is 7. What question are we answering? How much money did each have at first? Well, at first, Lisa had a block of S, that's 7, another block of S, and 18. So altogether, Lily must have had, how much did each have? Yeah, we want to know how much each one of them had. So that's 14 and 18, which is going to give me 32. Well, okay, they each have 32. They're the same number. Sarah had 7 and 25. That adds together to give me 32 as well. So one way to check it is to see if both of them give you the same answer, and they do. And so each of them had $32 in the beginning. Drawing these bar graphs, making them help you see the picture of what we're looking at, is going to be a big key towards solving Singapore math word problems and really to understanding what's going on in algebra. This is a beginning understanding of algebra, and it helps to see the word problem, see it done pictorially.